23rd, 2014, 1 p.m., room 1060 for those in audio land. I am joined by my colleague, the esteemed Senator and Council Member of the new 9th, Karen Price. And I am prepared to go forward. We have item number 1 on consent, and we can have item number 3 on consent for those who are in favor of the project. I understand there are 2 people with public comment cards, and if they are in favor of the project and want to waive their comments, we are able and prepared to move the items forward on consent and move those 2 items forward.
Mr. Chair, it would be appropriate to read items 1 and 3 into the record quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Item 1 is a HCID report relative to issuing tax-exempt multifamily conduit bonds for the Laurel Village Apartments project. Item 3 is a motion Martinez-O'Farrell relative to instructing the GSD, the Public Library, Rec and Parks, and HCID and other departments to coordinate with the Commission on the Status of Women to identify appropriate facilities and post relevant information to inform residents about California's paid family leave program.
Yes, item 7 is in council, or rather, item 1 is in Council District 7. This is the will of the council member. He is not with us today. He is in Sacramento attending the city business there, but is desires that to be moved on consent. And item 3, as I said, we have 2 people here who may speak, but they also have a right to waive that those comments in lieu of moving this matter forward. Karen Peters and Ruth Dawson, what is your desire?
Happy to waive. I'd like to waive as well.
Great.
Pardon me, Mr.
The great
Chair.
thing about
For the record, these will be communications.
yes, and the great thing about the city, as I was talking to my staff, when we have items like this, this city supports these items, and we are ready to move full forward with these communications. We don't need a lot of debate, we need a lot of action. And so we're prepared to move forward. Motion to move? So moved. So moved. These matters are matters of consent. Okay. Congratulations, everybody. Item number 2, we have a report from the city attorney. Yes.
Item number 2 is City Attorney Report and Ordinance and CAO2 report relative to amending the administrative code to create a procedure to sell real property that is acquired by HCID that is restricted for use for the provision of housing for low and moderate income households.
We have housing up here?
Yes.
Yes. Hi.
Good afternoon. My name is Mei Mei Chang. I'm a Deputy City Attorney for Housing. Thank you for having us here today. We're here to discuss the report that was drafted by my office as requested by City Council to provide for an amendment to the LA Administrative Code to set forth an expedited process for which for housing to use to dispose of REO surplus properties. Just by way of a little bit of background, as you all know, LAHD makes loans to developers, various entities to build low-income housing. The money that we lend comes from local, state, and federal funding sources, which requires the property to be used as low and moderate income housing. Sometimes these loans are foreclosed upon, and if the property doesn't sell at auction, the department takes title back to these properties. It's in the interest of the department to both the department and the public to get these properties sold on a timely basis to lower the liability to the department associated with prolonged ownership and to get the properties back on the affordable market as soon as possible. We believe an amendment to the admin code is necessary, or appropriate rather, because the way the admin code is currently drafted doesn't really contemplate for the sale of surplus property when, by virtue of the underlying source of funds, the property is restricted in use to low and moderate income housing. Basically, the way the department has been selling property up until now has been using Section 7.27 of the ad code, which is called private sale. The reason why it takes so long is because the department has had to go to council twice. One time for city council to make findings that the sale is in the public interest and necessity. Then because of then again to get approval of the sale. And in the middle, LHD does have to to conduct a competitive sales process as required by the funding sources. It could be months. It can take months. It takes generally about, if I'm not mistaken, and David Zaitz, who is from Housing, can correct me, I believe it's an 8-week cycle.
Well, each time we have to go to council, it's 8 weeks. And then, of course, we have this process of having to write reports, then go to council, which is 8 weeks, then go ahead and do the competitive process, which can take months, and then go back to council, which is another time that we need to write a report, and then wait another 8 weeks to go through council.
And, a lot of the homes, or a lot of the properties we're selling, they're not all multifamily. Some of them are single-family condos. And, when natural people are buying the properties, they can't really wait that long. The process is too long for them to become viable buyers, which is another reason why we need the process to go along a little quicker. Finally, the admin code also has provisions in it that don't really apply to housing. Like, for example, 7.22 of the admin code requires housing to offer the surplus property to other city agencies, but no one's going to be able to use these properties because the funding source requires the property to be used as low and moderate income housing. So it's kind of an exercise in futility and adds that extra amount of time. So basically, it's not working for those reasons.
The sales are to the end user directly, or to a nonprofit intermediary?
It can be either. It can be to a lower moderate income household who can use the property as their primary residence. If it's going to be sold to a nonprofit, they need to sign a regulatory agreement with the department covenanting the property for 30 years or how many years, whatever amount of time.
So the property may be sold, what Mamie is speaking about, properties, single-family properties may be sold to single-family homeowners. We also have multifamily properties, which would then be sold to an owner who would then rent out the properties. Sold to an owner who would do the rehab and then rent them out.
So we're basically recommending a more streamlined sales process wherein the general manager of the department has the authority to go ahead and authorize the sale of the property without having to first seek council approval. We also do away with the requirement of having to offer these properties to other city agencies who aren't going to be able to use them anyway. We're in line. Most of the time, we have to have a competitive process by virtue of the underlying funding source. So we're offering two methods of sale, both of which are competitive in nature. It's very clear in terms of how much with the minimum sales price is, how long the property has to be covenanted for. There's also checks and balances because the sale needs to be approved by the CAO and council before being finalized. And it also has the advantage of giving future staff, current and future staff, some clarity insofar as how to dispose of these properties, because right now, while we're using the ad code, it's not very clear. We're kind of using a kind of a multi-step method that's not clearly set out in the ad code. So we'd like to correct that to make it clear. That's basically it, unless you have any questions.
Lovely. Yes. I'd like to hear from...
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Council Member, Josh Romer with the CAO's office. We have reviewed the proposed ordinance and we recommend approval. I did want to note for the record that the provisions that will be adopted to this ordinance beyond for sale of REO properties received in lieu of foreclosure, our understanding is that these provisions would also be able to be used for properties that are and basically any of the properties that HCID controls that have similar affordable housing restrictions on the property. So this includes also, I believe, a large group of properties received from HCID from the CRA as a housing successor entity. I believe there are around 50 properties that fit this description. But we think that this ordinance is well considered and well drafted, and I think it's appropriate.
Okay. Anybody else? What am I missing? You're
With the department, we recommend approval.
with the department, and you're with
City Attorney?
city attorney. Okay. So, a couple of things are shocking here. One, that we have a repetitive and cumbersome process. And two is that we want to bypass the council so that the general managers can run the department.
We wouldn't say bypass council, because we have to come back to council with the final,
Right, so let me ask you
final
this.
deal for approval.
I heard that. I was wondering
And then I'd also like to kind of,
disruptive, though. Here's my concern, and two people just left who were coming to me about a on-point situation here. How do we make sure that the council office has notice and is apprised so that they don't, at the end, reject something at the end of the process? That's what I'm concerned about. So here comes something, it's all tied up, nice, ready to go, and then I go, I don't like that. Send it back because I didn't see it earlier, I didn't understand it, or the input I wanted to make had already, opportunities for that had gone by. That's my only concern.
typically what we've done when drafting RFPs is that we have touched base with the council office to let them know that the RFP was going forward and ask them if they had any comments on it.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be looking to change that process.
All right. Can we codify that, or is that codified?
I'm with the housing.
Oh.
Yeah, just one comment regarding your question.
Please come up here, sir.
Sure.
Identify yourself.
Vasquez Jansizian with the Housing Department. Actually, just recently, the department decided to share with every council office all the available properties in each district
Yes?
prior to do any action, prior to taking any action, to make sure
When is that
you're
notification
concerned.
going to occur?
I'm sorry?
When is that notification going to occur?
Any day now, because we are aware of this, and before we list any property or to take any action, we want to make sure that every council district is aware of all the properties available in their district, and if they have any intentions, any recommendations, we're going to consider prior to taking any single action.
Okay.
Just want to clarify that.
That's helpful. That's a bigger picture helpful. But more specifically on process, as you said, you notify the council members as this goes on. Is this codified in any way?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
It's been kind of the informal part of the process, because the council office should be informed about things going on within their district.
Should we note that in this change? City Attorney, would it be
We-
difficult to maybe note it advisory or in some form?
We can, certainly, I mean, we didn't consider that, obviously, but we can add something in.
And only, as I said, because I don't want, since we do it, right, so that's good, and the good value of doing it is that then at the end, we're not looking at something and then
Kicking it back at the end.
back.
So
But this should minimize that.
can I get a little bit more clarity in exactly what kind of contact or,
Whatever the process is that you guys are utilizing, that you should simply suggest or advise that that be done.
Generally speaking, Councilman, the process and the communication between the department and the city council districts is not a matter of code. We can certainly amend our report and make the recommendation that council recommend that. As far as amending the ordinance, it would actually put this ordinance fairly out of step. I understand the councilman's concern, but when do we expect this to go to council? Do we know? All right, let's look at possibly putting an amendment forward
good
at the
step.
time this go forward.
Okay. We're good?
How many properties are there, these surplus properties, total citywide? Do you have a number?
Well, I don't have a number on total surplus city properties, but I have a number of the housing properties that we have.
All right, this is 50, right?
There are approximately 60 properties that were transferred over to us by CRA.
Family and multifamily?
Yes, single-family and multifamily. There's approximately 60 that were transferred over to us by the CRA to the city. That also includes vacant land. And then there are approximately 10 that were originally with the housing department. So we're talking approximately 70, of which a majority are restricted to housing uses. I wanted to also kind of lay out that this again applies
Are we
to
talking also about vacant land that's restricted, or just
Yep.
physical properties?
vacant land that would be restricted.
It's also restricted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to, again, kind of this would apply to properties that have funds that would restrict it only to housing. Those properties that are housing properties that had other sources of funding, like block grant, we would come to council, and council then could make the policy decision whether they wanted to keep it housing or using it as something else. So these are, again, we just wanted to concentrate on those that we could only use as housing, and we'd have to go forward with a housing proposal.
You good? So here's what we want to do, right? We love this. Obviously, we want efficiencies. We don't want the process to be cumbersome. We don't want you coming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth when it's not necessary. At the same time, we do want to ensure communications with the council office, and we should figure out a way to make sure that that is the case.
Certainly, the city attorney will work with your office and prepare an amendment that could be presented at council with the ordinance.
Awesome. So we cut down a lot, and then we put a little safeguard there.
Thank you.
We're good?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. They left. That was the guy. Okay, so I have John Heimer, architect. Or Jim? Jim Heimer here, architect. James Heimer, Architect, Inc. These are the two properties. 10:45. Christy McCall's here. Martha Mendez is here. Yep. Martha Mendez, Christy McCall. The same ones?
Yep.
They're downstairs. Okay.
So item number 2 is approved as amended.
So moved. Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
We
We
now,
have general public comment. Is that correct? And that includes Pastor Q, World Church Without Walls, some grade or grode? Some grody, Reverend Rick Hoyt, and Joe Montano, Coalition for Economic Survival.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Pastor Q. I pastor in Skid Row, and I'm here supporting Raise LA because we just did a survey 2 weeks ago, Skid Row, and two of the most important things that people are expressing that they need, housing and jobs. And we believe that Raise LA is one of the ways to deal with poverty in our city. There are a lot of families. We have a lot more families in Skid Row. I've been there for 8 years than we've had in the past. And we believe that a strong a living wage in Los Angeles is really needed, especially with all the new hotels and new developments that are happening in downtown Los Angeles. We believe that it's critical that those who are here
Thank you.
are taken care of.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. My name is Tom Grody. I live in Skid Row. And if I understand this correctly, the Operation Healthy Streets proposed expansion was brought to your committee? Oh, it says so on the website. Okay. I just want to let you know the word on the streets, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but that 25% or 500,000 in that proposal, which goes to compliance inspectors, will give them some police powers. For example, if someone's urinating against a wall, they could be cited. If that's the case, I feel like that's a horrible mistake. That there's now, over the past couple of years, a positive relationship between the sanitation workers and the street, but going back before that, it was a very ugly relationship. And I think if this happens, it's going to take it back to the way it was.
That's not the intention. And so that's much appreciated. Okay. Joe Montano.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Joe Montana with the Coalition for Economic Survival, Renters' Rights Organization, and a member of the Raise LA campaign, which seeks to raise the minimum wage to $15 for hotel workers. We stand in solidarity with the Raise LA campaign because it's strongly in line with our mission to defend the rights of renters and prevent displacement. Raising the minimum wage for these workers is a necessity in the growing crisis for renters. Numerous reports and studies reveal that rents continue to rise at a rapid rate while incomes have not kept up. The California Housing Partnership Corporation recently published a report that revealed the median rents in California increased by 20% from 2000 to 2012, while the median income dropped by 8%. And the shortfall of homes affordable and available to extremely low-income renters shows that for every 100 extremely low-income renter, only 19 units are affordable and available. We need the city to take action and support the Raise LA campaign because we feel it's a way definitely to help this population that definitely needs.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and Reverend Rick Holt.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Rick Hoyt. I'm with the First Unitarian Church of Los Angeles, which is in your council district, Cedillo, and I'm here with the, excuse me?
Been there many times.
Oh, yes. I'm here also with the Coalition for the Raise LA campaign. Our church, I want to celebrate with you, just finished building 85 units of affordable housing. We're very excited about addressing the problem of affordable housing in the city, and we also think that raising the living wage, or raising wages to a living wage, well, is another way to address the same issue. And my church community is strongly behind this ordinance, and I hope that you'll support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay. That concludes public comment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn? So be it.